Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's recorded webinar about the Digital Skills Pathway approach that Good Things Foundation, along with some key partners, piloted last year. Our evaluation reports on behalf of the pathway were very recently published, and today's launch event, we will be talking about the pathway model, and we will be talking, well, hearing from all the different perspectives involved in the pathway approach. As you can probably all tell by the name of this event, this will be recorded. If you aren't too keen on having yourself on show, then please switch off your cameras, and the recording will be made available on the Good Things Foundation website afterwards. We are especially tight for time with 45 minutes, and there's a lot to get through. So with no further ado, I will very quickly introduce you to our speakers. Well, I'll let them introduce themselves. So with that, I will start with Katie, if you want to say a quick hello to the attendees.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie Hurd. I'm Head of Research and Data Insights at Good Things Foundation and was quite heavily involved in the evaluation of our Digital Skills Pathway pilot. And I'll hand over to Michelle.
Hi, Michelle Lovedown. I can see some of the names of the valuable colleagues we work with on this project, which is great. So it gives us an opportunity to update you face to face on what happened on UKCRF. So I was the programme manager for this particular project.
Great.
Yeah,
I think we're Ed, if you want to say a quick hello, that would be great.
Good afternoon, everybody. Edward Coley, Assistant Delivery Manager, West Midlands Combined Authority, and Contract Manager for the project that you are going to hear more about across the West Midlands, as well as other places. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Ed. And at some point, we will also be hearing from Tunde, who is representing a community organisation called Believe Achieve CIC based in Manchester. I believe he's just a moment behind. So with no further ado, and we're doing brilliant on our timings, Katie's going to kickstart and telling us about the pathway.
Brilliant. Fab. Hello, everybody. Thanks very much. So this is just a whistle-stop overview of the Digital Skills Pathway activity that we did as a Good Things Foundation. We ran it across 3 combined authority areas, and it's great to see some of you represented here today. So without further ado, I will jump onto the next slide and pass on to Michelle to give you a bit of background.
Hi everyone. So many of you may remember dim and distant past when we applied for UKCRF. This project was really the precursor to the Shared Prosperity Fund, and the intention behind UKCRF was to pilot a number of projects that could have a real impact on communities in terms of the digital inclusion agenda in particular. That was the focus for our project. So we were invited to tender in the summer of 2021. I have to get my years right. We asked for 3 projects, which we were awarded, one in West Midlands, one in north of Tyne, and one in Greater Manchester. And much of what we were trying to do with the digital skills pathways, they had different names in different areas, so they were very much tailored to the particular areas that we were awarded those contracts for, was to hit the agenda you see on the right here. The idea that we have still a massive skills gap out there for people who are digitally excluded, and essentially not just is that a problem for those individuals themselves, but it does impact as well on the skills gaps that employers are experiencing. And one of the things that obviously was designed to address this skills gap was the qualifications agenda, and actually enabling free access to qualifications, the digital skills entitlement. What we found as Good Things Foundation is that has got got us somewhere, but not far enough. So the digital skills pathway was really designed to think about those people who were not necessarily attracted by going on a qualification as their first starting point. Many of those individuals would have been people who were put off by the traditional education system. So the pathway was designed to engage people who just needed those digital skills, and often for a purpose. So Katie, can you go on the slide? So what did the pathway look like? When we were designing this pathway, we've had various different graphics to express this. This is our latest one and the one you'll see in our report. But what we wanted to do was bring together different types of organisations to engage the digitally excluded. We recognise as Good Things Foundation, with the many partners, many of whom are in this room today, that community organisations are a really good way to engage those who are most excluded, and that's both in terms of digital and social exclusion. And working deep within your communities is so valuable, because essentially that builds up the trust with those individuals to actually take some steps forward with their digital skills they might otherwise not do. One of the things we did within the pathway was try to join up with further education colleges, and I see some people are represented here today, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But part of this was designed to get us to a series of outcomes. These were UKCRF outcomes, but also outcomes which were really important for the individuals involved. So progress to further learning, we had an outcome of getting around 30% of people who've started on our projects to get them through to some kind of further learning. Now, that didn't have to be qualifications, it could be other outcomes, and Katie's going to talk to you a little bit about how we have where we've achieved those particular targets. But for us, that was one thing where the further education colleges could play a key role in telling people about the opportunities available, providing initial advice and guidance, and being able to actually help people who were ready to take that next step onto that journey. We also had skills for which were around employability and getting back into work. So our target audience was adults who were economically inactive, unemployed, and in insecure or part-time employment. So again, a key outcome for those individuals was the notion that for some of them, they could go back into work and start on their pathway towards that. And then thirdly, we also had an outcome which is more around the life skills and the ability for you to actually use digital in your lives to improve your own quality of life. So that again was another important outcome. So the pathway was designed to work across community organisations, adult community education providers, and FE colleges to enable us to achieve those outcomes. So I'll hand over to Katie to talk you through what we achieved.
Great, thanks, Michelle. So as Michelle said, we were primarily targeting 3 groups of people. So those that were seeking work, those who were economically inactive, and those that were in work. We were really pleased with the number of people we managed to engage in the programme, well over 5,000 people. And interestingly for us, we don't have a huge amount of data across the rest of our delivery in terms of the makeup demographically, but we saw the vast majority of people accessing this programme being from ethnic minority groups, and a very large number reporting the fact that English wasn't their first language. So there was a huge barrier to entry, not only for from being digitally excluded for many of the population that we reached, but also facing barriers on multiple different fronts: social exclusion, language being a barrier, etc. The original delivery was due to run from February until the end of June, but we extended the contract was extended further to kind of allow us to reach more people. One of the most interesting things about the people that we reached, also as well as the kind of multiple barriers, was the sheer number of economically inactive individuals that we reached. So our target was only 25%. Now, this was in a post-COVID era where there was a huge conversation going on about the number of people that were moving into that economically inactive group, and we very much saw that reflected in our delivery and the people that we reached. Like I say, we reached a large number of people from ethnic minorities, and we did a huge amount of work with the network of hubs that delivered the activity across the 3 combined authority areas to try and broaden the reach into communities that wouldn't usually come into this space. And I think that's why we saw the huge numbers of people that we did from having English as a second language, but also from ethnic minority groups. And so what difference did we make? Well, we gave, as part of the support that people received from us, from our network of hubs, we provided skills support, removing the barriers for the individuals to become digitally included. Now, for many people, access is a barrier. So for about 60% of the people that we supported, we gave them a device and data as well to remove their access barrier as well. So 2/3 of people supported achieved at least one of the desired outcomes that we were asked to kind of focus on through the programme. So many were reported being motivated to keep on learning. Around half did progress onto further learning, which was a huge achievement. 44% reported better employment prospects, and 1/3 applied for a job. So there's some really great outcomes for us across the whole of the programme, which we really want to celebrate. In terms of kind of wider impacts and the impacts that we focus on as an organisation at Good Things Foundation, our kind of core pillars of our outcomes framework are to encourage people to be digitally equal, digitally able and digitally safe. And so we were really, really pleased with these bottom 3 boxes in that over around 90% and more reported that their digital skills had improved, they felt more confident using the internet, and they also had access to a device or data which they may not have had before. So we were effectively removing many of the barriers, or supporting people to remove the barriers to help them become digitally included, which was a key component of their progression onto learning, employment, applying for jobs, and also the softer kind of life skills as well. You know, having access and the confidence to use the internet and be online actually was a key facilitator of that. But just the highlights, we've got loads more figures that sit behind that, and we've got lots of a full report if you want to go and have a look at it in more detail that kind of talk to you a lot more about the outcomes that people achieved. Michelle.
So what do we learn overall? Well, I think we would conclude, and I think the combined authority colleagues who we worked to would conclude that it was an effective model for improving digital inclusion in communities. The sheer number of people we reached and the outcomes were, I think, evidence of that. I think one of the things that we also realized, and this was a part of the overall design of this, was having the skills, a device and data as 3 points of contact with that individual was really key to our success. So we did have instances where people didn't have access to a device which they could keep at the end of the programme, and they had to use devices provided by the centres. It's hard because we haven't done the longitudinal research to actually to work out what impact that will have, but certainly the feeling is that by having that data and device beyond the life of the program, that individual will continue learning, and it's not a kind of 8-week and you're suddenly a digital expert, as we all know. So essentially that learning happens over an extended point of time, and to transform lives you need that continuity. One of the other things I think that is key is the funding, and I think many of the people on this call will recognise that particular item. So essentially what we've had in the past is we used to be able to fund through Department for Education some of this, what I would say the initial work that we were doing to engage and support people in their very first steps online. So it's not a formal course, it's not a qualification, but it's essential. And without that funding available to allow people in those community venues to be able to support those initial steps online, it's a real struggle. So this was a very short project, and you know, a lot of these projects are very short, and that's an issue in itself. So having that extended length of funding, which now enables centres to actually invest in the resources they need to support people in that way. Even if those resources are largely also volunteer resources, you still have to train and induct people and make sure that they are suitable to be able to support people in this way. So that's a key thing here. So I think one of the things also that has proved very useful is Good Things Foundation is an organisation whose whole mission is around digital inclusion, as Katie said. So actually leveraging our network, many of you guys are already part of our network, but also the resources that we've developed over time can be really powerful. You know, these are not resources we're charging for. This is a free network to join. It's free to use our resources. So actually looking for organisations like ourselves to actually work with government to try to solve this issue of the digital inclusion that we still have. And partnership working takes time. It takes an awful lot of effort. This was a very short project and we learned some lessons that we're probably going to talk about in a few minutes, but essentially I think you do have to invest in those partnerships if you're going to make it work over the long term. And I think everything works within a local authority and a combined authority area in slightly different ways. So you have to also understand how those partnerships work together to maximise those opportunities.
Fab. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so we weren't involved in this programme all by ourselves. We relied heavily on the support of many others. So what we wanted to do is bring in the perspectives of those different partners that played a key part in the delivery of this programme. And that for us, there were 4 key elements to that. There were the combined authorities who commissioned the work but helped steer the work through. There were the FE colleges, as Michelle suggested, you know, that they were the progression route. They were vital in terms of facilitating that transition for many of the beneficiaries that were involved. There were the community organisations in themselves, but then the beneficiaries as well. We couldn't have done it without them. What we'll do in the next few slides is talk through those 4 different perspectives, and I'm really pleased to say that we've got some fantastic people here to help share those perspectives. So to start, we're going to start with the combined authority perspective, and Ed Coley is here from the West Midlands, as he introduced himself at the beginning. So and Ed was only one of the 3 combined authority partners, and you can see here there's a little bit of information about the other 2. But Ed, over to you if you want to kind of have introduce your perspective on this.
Thank you, Katie. My lips don't move on the picture. I'm so sorry I can't get a picture, but you just have to bear with me. I am real, hiding behind a screen. So basically, I think with this project, my observations are that, bearing in mind Community Renewal Fund in the end was done at pace due to the delay from submission of projects into government to approval. I have to say from the outset, as an observation, mobilisation of this project was done in a very quick time. Michelle referred to I think a key theme of this in one of her slides previously, around it's the devices, it's the skills, and it's the engagement. And I think for us as a combined authority, it was a great opportunity to test a new way of working with a range of organisations to engage people further, because as you've seen from the slides that Katie presented, we've got economically inactive as well as unemployed people who are moving through this. But also, at the same extent, we're actually engaging people to get them skilled, to be in a position where they can apply for jobs. And I'll give you an anecdote from one local authority where, from research that we did, basically we've had people applying from bus stations where the Wi-Fi is free in the past. And we can't have that as a situation. And so this starts to pave the way for lots of work, again, that we've been doing with Michelle in particular around a digital inclusion strategy moving forward in that space as well. So I think that's been really good to make everybody aware that we're in a position whereby this has provided a vanguard of activity in this space in more than one more of the combined authority family of local authorities. I'd also say that overall, to be fair to the Good Things team, is pretty low maintenance. It was just more of a supporting package to Michelle and the team that were driving this forward, because for a number of reasons, I think it was a very good project, well managed, but then also on the back end of that, there was a reasonable amount of the infrastructure in place in the first instance. It was just a case of bringing it all together as one, and the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And I think that's well worth mentioning in that space. And as you can see, the dividends that have come off it, that we were part of that delivery, are, I think, commensurate with other project activity in that space, particularly around other employment support programs under which this formed a wide banner. So we've been very keen to support it. Hats off to the team for delivering in the time space available to us in that time. But it also starts to inform what we're doing going forward around shared prosperity funds and other bits and snippets around multiplier as well, and using that engagement strategy there too. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ed. Fantastic. There'll be space for questions at the end if anybody's got any, so we haven't said that. So yeah, please do come back to us with some if you've got them. Okay, so that was the first perspective, combined authority area. So the next perspective is the FE providers, and Michelle's going to just talk us through this one.
Yeah, just very quickly, because I want to give Tende plenty of time. So we have some FE colleges here, so great to hear from you. Maybe we can pick that up in the questions. But I think the FE relationships were generally good. Some of the centres felt a little bit threatened by FE colleges. I think that's true to say, because of the relationship between, you know, the idea that some of the FE partners may be progressing their learners onto a different environment too early. But generally speaking, I think the relationships were good. It does take a lot of time to form a partnership. I've mentioned that already. So I think we were very very short period of time. It was hard to actually to form those relationships if they weren't already in place. And that's one of the key things there in terms of the impact. But I think generally speaking, what it did do, and a number of people reported this, was give the FE colleges themselves a better awareness of the type of target audience we were dealing with, and how to potentially attract those people to consider FE as an option going forward. So as I say, we'll come back to this perhaps in the questions, but you can see some of the feedback that we were given there.
Fab, thanks, Michelle. Yep. So next perspective is the beneficiary perspective. This was what it was all about. And like I said before, we made sure that beneficiaries not only receive skills and support and engagement support, but also many of them also received devices and data. Many of the hubs were in existing community settings, so places where people already had relationships built, which was key to the success, really. A trusted face, generally speaking, for many in a place that they knew. And there were some fantastic examples of FE colleges coming into those local community hubs to try and bridge that gap with the FE providers. In terms of the impact on the beneficiaries, it was really key that the support was tailored to the individual as they came in through the door. So understanding somebody's personal motivations was absolutely key in bringing them along on that journey. It was really effective at kind of moving people through the journey, but as Michelle said, the program was short, so there was only a certain amount of time. And it's important to recognize for many of our beneficiaries that actually it takes a long time to move from being digitally excluded and excluded from the jobs market or the education field, and so it's a long journey that many of them need to go on. But the vast majority of the beneficiaries achieved at least one of the programme outcomes, and as you saw earlier, about 90% of them could also then say they felt more digitally included by the end of the programme. And there's just a nice little quote from one of the beneficiaries. So we'll make all of this available. And like I say, there's lots more detail in the report that we shared, so please do have a read. So final perspective is from a community organisation perspective. And do we have Tunde here now? We do. Fantastic. So Tunde, over to you.
Can everybody hear me? Hello?
We can. Yeah, great. Fab. Over to you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me here today. Huge, great honor to be here. I just want to say it's been a great program, and in terms of our partnership with Good Thing Foundation has changed the life of so many people. I'm pretty sure everybody here already heard about facts and figures in terms of how people's life has changed. We, as an organization, we're based in Farnworth. I'm not sure if anybody heard about Farnworth before, which is within the 10%, one of the most deprived community in England. And I would say our partnership has changed the lives of so many people. We're talking about in the tons of hundreds of many people. And what we've done in terms of giving out the device itself, we have gone a bit of extra mile in targeting even the youngest as well, in terms of how to protect themselves online. I mean, we do have some people that think they know everything already. So we sort of target both sides in terms of people that are completely digitally excluded and people that are included, but vulnerable online kind of thing. And it's been absolutely great in terms of, and what we've done to be so innovative in terms of what we do is we have created, we obviously got financial advisor involved, went right deeper into why people couldn't afford things. So while we're giving them data, we loan them free data, we loan them a device for free, while the financial advisor are looking into the finance on working on permanent solutions to their problem rather than, and while we also using the online platform created by Good Thing Foundation, Learn My Way, and our IT team then sort of worked. We actually did right outside our center. We're very lucky. We've got a place called On Bargains, and there's a big square right outside. So we usually set up like a gazebo outside and get we've got a screen outside our center. So we to sort of get people to understand a bit more. So we create like a game about it, get people, we got an IT person that is absolutely fantastic. So people connected to the Wi-Fi, and while they're connected, everything that connects to Wi-Fi, the device will be vulnerable. They can see everything that they are doing on the screen, sort of help people to learn how to protect themselves. And on top of that, we obviously, the device we're giving out to people, we, apart from doing a group work, we also do a lot of remote work. I mean, especially for people that unfortunately couldn't come out to visit. So just to reach out to everybody, we've reached out to, we've supported over 400 users, service users, and out of that, more than 50% people are now comfortable in terms of using digital connected and in fact getting into a job as well. We have 35% of the people that we supported are now in a job, and one of them actually is now working for Ford, which is not very far from here, working for the finance team in Ford. And you know, people like this wouldn't have have told us that they wouldn't have get this opportunity without the program, which originally created the program that comes from Good Thing Foundation with our involvement and everybody together. So obviously we are, this is a program that is changing a lot of lives for many people. So very, very honored to be here today. Yeah.
Tunde, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. So our final slide is just our checklist for success. which we will, I think, leave up on the screen while we kind of open out to questions. But if anybody is struggling with us leaving that up, please do let us know, and we'll just put faces on the screen as well. Hannah.
Thanks so much, Katie, and thanks so much, everyone who is speaking on behalf of their respective perspective. So now we're opening the floor to questions. If you do have any questions for the panel, then please can you pop them into the chat. Just to get us started, though, I've got a couple of questions teed up for our different perspectives here. I'm going to start with Ed on behalf of the Combined Authority, because I know that we've got a couple of Combined Authority and local authority representatives here. So I think I would love to ask, if the digital skills pathway approach was to be replicated, Ed, what are the 3 things that you'd recommend? Ed? Ed, I think you're on mute. Oh, here we go.
Thank you for pointing that out, Hannah.
No problem.
What I was going to say was that they're all interrelated, so I won't relay them point by point by point. I think we've obviously moved on in this space as a combined authority. I think where the key things are, which this project has highlighted, and particularly the comments again that Michelle's relayed to everybody, are around the dialogue and the conversation, and realizing that everybody, whether it be colleges, whether it be other organizations engaged with this, they've all got their part to play with this. And I think it's that conversation that's probably one of the most important going forward. You know, that everybody can contribute to this space. The other thing that I think it does show moving forward is that you must, at regular intervals, understand what your present and potential future capacity is to deliver in this space and provide and develop activity. This is something that we are in the throes of doing, along with local authority colleagues, as well as other organisations in this space, because that's how we're able to formulate a strategy and work going forward that actually will mean impact as a consequence. And I think that's probably one of the most important things, Hannah, from that perspective. And I'd also say that as a correlation to that you also need to understand, through project activity and dialogue like this, what, particularly in relation to the cost of living crisis and the like, is that what equipment people have got or need to actually be equipped with to actually engage in this space. And I do know this from the past in terms of working during the pandemic in a project aligned to food security or food insecurity, and the vast majority of work assumed that people had digital devices to engage. And it's very important that we understand what that picture is to go forward, and so we can help and support through wider procurement rounds, through sort of like our devolved budgets, and also maybe through looking at this space with Shared Prosperity Fund and any other funding that we've got going forward, aligned with other sort of like co-commissioners in the past, such as Big Lottery, for example, that kind of thing. So those would be my three things there, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Ed. Yeah, I think that's really, really valuable to reflect upon. Yeah, so just a couple more from me. And I know that some people are kind of commenting on this in the chat. And on a personal level, I would love to hear from some further education or adult community education providers. So if you are here and willing and able, then please kind of raise your hand or pop your name in the chat, because I think it would be really great to hear from you and what that partnership working was like from your perspective? And I know obviously we heard a little bit from Michelle earlier in the presentation, but Michelle, I would love to hear from you in terms of the biggest challenge from your perspective when it came to this pathway approach.
So I think the biggest challenge was really partly the timing of the project, because as Ed alluded to, it was delayed in terms of an award. So when we were looking for partners to work with, particularly in the north of Tyne, it was challenging to get partners. So essentially what happened there was we were hitting asking partners to come with us on this project at around sort of January, December, January time, where for many people they were finishing up other projects up till March. So it became difficult to get the partners on board, especially, as I say, in the north of Tyne, I think. In terms of delivery of the programme overall, that was the big challenge. And also, as we said before about the funding, essentially because it was such a short programme and such a short funding window, actually getting people to say that they would do this and hit those targets within 5 months was really, really challenging. And I think that plays to the point on the checklist here, how important it is to think about not just funding qualifications, but funding engagement and support over a longer period of time than just a simple five-month project. The resources, the commitment needs to be there over a period of years in order for small organizations to invest in staffing and training of volunteers and other things to be actually able to really facilitate this level of engagement.
Yeah, no, that's great. Absolutely. And relatedly, in fact, so we've had a question come through from PMO, who's given really, really good context to this, but in haste, Michelle, maybe you could answer on behalf of the panel, but how do the panel see such programs maintaining support in the future? Does it come down just to longer term funding?
I think it does, but it does come down to working with the combined authorities to leverage what we can from those relationships. As we know, the SPF funding that really relates to people, places, the digital inclusion agenda isn't yet available, really. So essentially, I think there is a window of opportunity there to work with combined authorities and local authorities to be able to actually leverage some of that money to do some of this work going forwards. And as Ed was saying, we have been working with the West Midlands on another project, which is more about joining everything back up and looking at the legacy from UKCRF and a curriculum and a way and approach of working across that whole combined authority that sees digital skills not as just a qualifications intervention. And so I think that's key. So that's certainly work I know as Good Things Foundation. You want to continue and try to spread that message as far as possible, that actually this isn't just a one-off 5-month funded program. This is an opportunity to look at things differently, and potentially get some funding in the right places to be able to enable that to happen. But unfortunately, there's no magic wand and no quick fix. It's an awful lot of discussions and working with colleagues at combined and local authority level to leverage what funding is available, which is still limited.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and thank you very much, Michelle. That's really valuable. We've got a raised hand. So Sweda, that's SWEDA. I'm going to ask you to come in, and then just on the clock, we've got 4 minutes. So if you want to come in with your question, that would be brilliant.
Hi, Hannah, Michelle. Thank you for a lovely presentation. This is Devinda from Sweda in West Province in West Midlands. My question is about funding. I think we started the slides by saying more than 10 million people are digitally, they need to have the skills. And one area where we are experiencing the highest demand, and the area which is least funded as an organization. So, I would love to pose a question to Ed, please. What are the thoughts within the combined authority at the moment as to what is the future planning, what is the thinking behind supporting digital skills learning? Because all the people we are getting in who need the support are not able to afford to pay for either for the equipment, buy the equipment, or even manage the internet broadband contracts as well. So they really are at the bottom rung of the ladder, and we do need a very urgent answer to this or a solution to this, because though a lot of these people potentially could be going into work, but these are the real barriers that they are facing, which are stopping them from learning or developing or accessing either full or part-time jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Very briefly, your points are acknowledged and recognised. Looking at some of the specifications that are in the throes of being procured or have been, I'm just looking at Multiply, for example, around numerical, that there is recognition that where people do not have the digital support to enable access to skills provision, then that becomes part of the tender. And I think, to be fair, it's an ongoing process with all of this, and it is recognised. From this call, I will be reinforcing the point as well to colleagues in this space. But it is recognised, and we are, I think, developing our sort of like procurement to include this as part of that.
Great, thank you so much. I will, I think, wrap it up there. That's brilliant. And we've had a couple of sort of comments, further comments and questions, and come in. So just to kind of give a nod to Margaret, thank you so much, Margaret, for your kind of comment there about, yeah, the timeline. We're hearing a lot about the timeline and how it was difficult, not impossible, to progress learners, which is very, you know, that's reiterating what Michelle was saying. And then Helen made a really valuable comment about, you know, meetings and paperwork and the administration around an approach like this. And, you know, maybe part of that just comes with partnership working to make sure everything's above board. But I have no doubt that obviously, you know, in future programs that needs to be revised, because of course that is time costly. And yeah, really great contributions here. So thank you so much. I think on that note, we've got a minute to go, and I'm really keen to kind of keep this to a tight 45 minutes. I just want to give a huge thank you to all of our speakers today. So yeah, a round of applause to Tunde, Michelle, Ed, and Katie. Thank you so much. And the webinar recording, as I say, will be uploaded on the Good Things Foundation website, so you can rewatch and get all of the insights into the pathway approach. But thank you so much. And I know so many attendees here today were part of this amazing pilot program. So well done. And thanks so much for your time today, everyone.